So if you're watching this video, you're probably thinking of moving to the West Village in New York City. The difference between the West Village and the other parts of the villages is that it's made up of 3 different parts. So you have the West Village, the East Village on the east side, and then you have the Village or Greenwich Village. There's a lot of people when they're coming to the city for the first time don't really realize that there are different parts of the whole part of the city like that is part of the village. Each one of those 3 parts that I mentioned are completely separate neighborhoods from a real estate perspective. So in this video, we're talking specifically about West Village. So it's all the way on the west of the Village, which is in the middle. The West Village specifically is one of the most expensive neighborhoods in New York City. And that's because there is so much demand to get in this neighborhood. Now, this neighborhood is filled with tree-lined streets, beautiful cobblestone. It's so picturesque. And a lot of people say that it reminds them of a European city. And it's really kind of the only neighborhood in Manhattan, at least, that kind of feels like that. So like I said, the West Village is made up of a lot of small cobblestone streets. Because of this, the apartments tend to be a little bit smaller because the streets aren't that big in the West Village. Because when they were building the West Village up, they couldn't build huge, gigantic places like other neighborhoods. So therefore, the West Village has some of the smallest apartments I've probably ever seen in Manhattan. So if that's something that you are okay with living with, if you're first coming to the West Village for the first time, it is one of the most fun, beautiful neighborhoods that you can find in Manhattan. There's lots of cafes, wine bars, cute, adorable little restaurants. And in both the summer months and even the colder months, it's just so fun to just like walk around there and kind of just like enjoy your time walking through the city. Now, the streets are a little narrow, so sometimes it can be really tough in the warmer months when there's a lot of different people coming in through the West Village or different tourists coming in through there. But it's a really great neighborhood to just be able to like walk around and enjoy like a cup of coffee. I honestly love doing that. That's like my favorite neighborhood in Manhattan to do that. Now, something I do want you to be aware of is that some apartments in the West Village, or I would say probably most apartments, don't have great light. And that's because there aren't really high-rise apartments in the West Village because they weren't allowed to be built. So recently, that has changed a little bit in certain areas of the West Village, but up until now, everything has been a mid-rise building, so they haven't been as like big skyscraping high-rises like other neighborhoods in Manhattan. Because of that, if you're not high enough, you're not going to get enough sunlight in your apartment. Now, I say some units do and some don't, because if there's no high-rises in the neighborhood, you're also not getting blocked by other buildings because all the buildings are kind of the same height. It's not as bad as other neighborhoods where it might be a dark neighborhood, but then there's also other buildings obstructing the light that you could potentially have. That's when you get like no sunlight in a unit. And the West Village, I would say, isn't the worst for sunlight, but it's also not the best. It's probably right in the middle where some units are decent and then others are not very good at all. So it's just something to keep in mind if that's important to you. So sometimes as a real estate agent, when I take people to apartments that don't have any sunlight, I'll kind of try to warn them in advance, like, I don't think the light's gonna be very good here. Or if I know, I'll be like, the light's definitely not good here. But then some people absolutely care, and then others can care less and are like, why are you telling me this? Like, who cares? I'm never in my apartment. And I'm like, okay. I'm the type of person that I would care about that, so it's just something to keep in mind. But at the same time, I've also had a few apartments that, even though I do care about sunlight, I knew that at that point in time, to live where I wanted to live, I had to sacrifice light. So I was also okay with that for a short amount of time. Also, as you walk through the streets of the West Village, you're gonna see some apartment buildings, but also a lot of townhomes, which makes the neighborhood so picturesque, because whenever you see townhomes, it's just like classic New York City, and it really does kind of just like make the streets great photo shoot spots, by the way, in the West Village. Absolutely love it. So what I typically tell people with the West Village when they're considering this neighborhood, if you like being in the action and you like being able to walk to bars, walk to restaurants, and if you feel like you want to live in a neighborhood where you actually don't have to leave, then the West Village could definitely be for you. Now, if you are the type of person who wants quiet and doesn't like to be around a bunch of people or doesn't like people to be on the streets at all times of the day and night, then the West Village probably isn't for you. I would then suggest more of a quiet neighborhood, and you can find other quiet neighborhoods that aren't too far from the West Village as well. Me personally, I love West Village. West Village is one of my favorite neighborhoods to spend time in. I don't think, at least at this point in my life, I would love living there because I do like a little bit more of a quiet neighborhood where the streets are a little bit larger and you kind of get a little bit more space because it could be very narrow in the West Village. However, where I live now, like, I also don't feel like it's that far to get to the West Village easily and be able to go out and dine there and do what I want there. I think that those are things that you need to consider. I don't typically love sharing my opinions because it's my opinion, but sometimes I feel like me sharing my opinions and why I think that way might help you guys, and that's the whole goal of these videos, is I just want to be able to help you make decisions that are best for you. Also, if you are at the stage in life where you're looking to live with a roommate, it might be a little bit tricky in the West Village because the apartments are so small. So a lot of people, even if they're at like the prime roommate age, if there is even a prime roommate age in New York City, because the apartments are so small in the West Village, they might actually consider living in like a really small 1-bedroom or a studio apartment by themselves because there's just not a lot of options for roommates, especially if you're talking about like you're going to have 3 or 4 people in an apartment. It's not really an option in the West Village. Like, you have your exceptions to every neighborhood, but for the most part, I would definitely suggest other neighborhoods over the West Village if you're trying to take that route. So I hope this helped you. I would love to hear your experiences about the West Village in the comments, and let me know, would you guys live in the West Village in Manhattan? As always, I just love hearing from you guys, so please share your thoughts in the comments.